And some people aren't smart enough to know when to stop doing something and when to retire. I mean, you can actually cash out and make money, versus losing money. And it's not saying that I'm going to stop making videos. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm definitely going to have to restructure and restyle how I'm presenting them because I have to make as much profit as possible off of this so that this doesn't totally bring me all the way down, to like ground zero. So I appreciate even people just promoting and retweeting this and just I don't mind you promoting even though it's kind of like a dark situation. I don't mind you putting this out because this can actually help me to get out of this situation quicker through promotion and viewership, period, and just credit so that I can be able to really like pay off all of this credit that I've created that's, now turned into like gold and stuff like that, which is a whole nother story. So it's like the equivalent of having a home or something like that you pretty much live in, but then having assets in that home that are too expensive. That's the perfect way to explain my scenario. This can put you into a situation where they tell you to do not pass go and do not collect $200. I'm serious because you have this home. It's the same scenario of you driving a Maserati through the ghetto and it's like no Maseratis out there. You can get into trouble for that. Meaning that you can do what you want to do, but I'm just saying like you put yourself into a certain financial situation when you do stuff like that. They call it flossing, but like in reality, it's like a tax and a lien on everything in that area when you drive through and do something like that. So that's kind of similar to what I'm experiencing. And luckily, but people in the community I pay credit. They've been like very vocal with me and explain to me like how to visa them credit so that they don't be taxed from this venture that I've created that's worth well over $3 million in credit and a kind of like a small vicinity, even though a lot of it is located, as you can kind of see and watch some of my videos from the past couple of years ago, you can kind of see I've been traveling a little bit, but still struggling. And I was able to kind of spread some of the monetization out. So that's what helped me to kind of like stay afloat. But now at this point where I'm at, it's gotten so bad that, like I said, the game of life has gotten ahead of your brother on the viewership level. So I have to now catch up. And it probably won't happen through views. It's going to actually have to happen through something I've been wanting to explain to you guys, a piece of real estate that I was able to build in an area that connects two different states. And I was able to, through secret Masonic sovereign agreements, I found out that if you're able to visa a certain amount of trips to and fro from this area, you'll create what's called a card. Like, in Masonry, you have several different types of cards. You guys that are Masons, this stuff, they have cards like to get into secret clearance levels. And there's different types. It's deep, actually. Some of it is there's no physical card. Like, there's no, like, this is a card, right? Like, there's no physical card. Like, this card is actually kind of screwed up. This is a banking card. And, like, I'm speaking on that. Yeah, you can get that too in Masonry, but they have other cards on higher levels for like master masons to like move in certain access points that you guys know nothing of. But that's a whole nother story. So I was given a access way or a way to kind of like offset this debt, and that turned into like a big deal. That's why I'm in here because I've been doing that for about 6 months. And you're like, what's that? So I've been like going to and fro, and I hit the quota or the amount of trips that they told me to make, and it's a lot. It's over 300. I'm just gonna let you know that. Oh yeah, 300 different trips that I made in and out of this country is what they consider it because it connects two different states, and they consider this area, which you think is in the United States, as the country, but it's not. It's out the country, believe it or not. This is stuff that people don't know according to the laws, though I'm saying. Of course, on paper, to the common layman and woman, they're going to think they're just in the state of, Ohio or wherever it's at. But it's really actually not the state of Ohio at all. But that's a whole nother story. And I was able to hit this quota and this goal, but then now that's created and unlocked, which could potentially turn into a positive situation. And this is where I'm at now, has unlocked a new pathway for me. And I'll explain that in just a quick second. I want to just kind of like finish explaining like the piece of real estate that I built up. So I was able to like build that up and turn that into like equity and stuff like that. And through betting. And there's people monitoring. You got people all over the world monitoring this very lucrative piece of real estate that only when I cross, it gets live, it's activated through a live feed through satellite, and many people come and view it from across the world and bet on it and trade with me and other people. And sometimes not even me, they trade with other people. And, if sometimes it gets to a point if they skip over me because they're doing so much trading, because people trade around me, right? My efforts, and they'll be like, forget, I'm not donating to 13sideastrology@gmail.com via PayPal. Like, I'm not donating to that. Forget him. I'm skipping over him and just figure out a way to make some money off of this. I mean, I like some of the stuff that he's doing, but he's nuts. Like, these are just rich people. That's how they look at me. Like, I'm not giving him anything. But, I like what some of the stuff he's doing. I mean, people have told me this, and I'm just going to trade off of it for free. And they've done that and ended up losing bets to me and costing them a lot of money. I've caught people's hands on a lot of money like that. I have gotten paid off of that actually too. Recouped a lot of money that way as well. But, and however, I kind of want to summarize this. So it's like I've created a piece of real estate and doing that connects to land too, though. Like literal land. So it's not just a trip I'm explaining I'm making, but once I touch down at this particular land, this is created kind of like a grid. It's deep. And it's key codes attached to it, like, right? Like different passcodes and key codes that unlock different financial opportunities, relationship opportunities for people that are work with me in this community. Like right now, we've been blessed with the opportunity to work. And now, like, this is the positive part by me purchasing this scenario. And I'm going to go into how much it purchased in the next video, like how much it cost me. That's going to lead to the next video, but it's over $10,000 I spent in one day. I had to spend this in one day, actually. That was the only way to buy it. So I spent $10,000 in credit, which takes you to a higher level than cash. See, people don't know this stuff when you Visa. I have Visa credit. Like, you guys look at credit scores. I have Visa credit scores and grant them out. I know how to do that. And when you go past like 300 and 3,000 and stuff like that, that's just cash. Then you get to like 4,000 and 5,000. That's just like going into like people's bank accounts and all that type of stuff. When you get so high, which is where I was able to make it to like this high level, or they let you invest into kind of like until the next one drop, which it hasn't. I was successfully able to make that for 3 days straight after the investment. So that puts us at about 6 days straight with no ones. On this count that I'm using, it's actually a little more than that, but it's about 6 days straight. So then now that gives me the opportunity to now, even though I'm not passing go and not collecting $200, guess what? You get to sit in there in jail, right? And every time they land on your property, what happens in Monopoly while you sitting up in there, you could get paid, right? Because they still be going around the board, right? And every time they hit your property, somebody got to pay something, or your number or whatever it is. And by you, so that's why you put yourself. You're like, why would you do something stupid like that? You're stupid. That's what I'm kind of addressing now. Like, people, somebody out there is thinking it. I like to address the most negative outcome or outlook, and then go from there. So somebody's thinking that right now, like, you're retarded. Why are you doing this? Like, it's like, because you're building up equity, and you don't have to now move with the world. You're in your own fold. They out there doing whatever they doing. You know what I'm saying? Going around and going around. You think you're losing because you keep going around with them, but then once you decide to kind of step back and observe it, this is going to take me to some information I want to drop on Project Looking Glass. Deep, dope information eventually in the future, just coming from this. But once you observe it, man, it can take you into a real deep scenario or whatever. So, and that's where I'm at now. Like, I was able to peep game on some of the stuff that's going on with my piece of real estate. So now I'm going to make a lot of equity. I'm going to turn this. My goal is to turn this problem into equity. And that's going to take me into my next bet, which is huge, because I just discovered what they're trying to do to bet me. See, I thought I had it to a point where, I'm talking about for the World Series. This is what I'm going into now, because this is preparing me for the World. This is why I'm doing this, is for the World Series. Like, why are you doing this? Because I'm going to recoup on a lot of cash. I keep telling people this. Like, I got people out here really willing to demonstrate the Lumerian blueprint that I talked about, and living in a Lumerian type of community right now. but they won't release enough money to us. They won't donate enough money because they don't believe in us. They talk about views and all these problems. So it's time to go ahead and just drop this information. Hopefully you guys can retweet it and promote it and just see what happens or whatever. So that's what it is. Like, you have to learn how to capitalize off of these different scenarios that we're put in when we're kind of kept out of the loop and like out and made into outcasts and stuff like that. Like, you still have to keep going. Like, just because they don't accept you doesn't mean you quit. And there's ways to keep going. So yeah, I set up a sovereign land. It has equity, very lucrative. I'm talking about the group itself. I'm not saying I have this, but they look at it as like each 100 trip. Like, every time it hits 100 trips, they be vising every day and messing around with like $10 million a day off of just 100 trips. And I'm well over 100 trips, meaning that every time it hits 100 trips, they look at that as like 10 million in credit, and they playing around with that and making money off the stock market with that, and it turns over. So that's kind of like where I'm at now. So like, it's a good scenario because it's other people monitoring it. A lot of times I set up a residual income from this, meaning that they'll hit me up like, well, at least give them. So it's positive stuff to this too. Like, well, at least give them a couple of dollars, $10, $15 or whatever, just in my sleep, just for, like, people hit his number, been crossing back and forth, doing X, Y, Z, yada, yada, yada. Go ahead and put somebody in there to keep the scales balanced. They call these people bank runners. They'll just break you off money if you're owed credit. And this is how I have to move now because, like, again, I've been told too many times on the front end of my channel, it's too explicit. It's a good way of putting it. So they're like, hey, I'm have to just put myself now into this scenario where it's like, I'm not passing go. I'm not collecting $200 so I can go ahead and drop as much videos, as many videos as I want. I don't know how this is going to go. And of course, I'm going to be looking at the numbers. And of course, I'm going to be looking at the credit and how much money's made off of it. But I have to do this because this is kind of like the final initiation, if you were, a final frontier for me. As we go to the next level, because I'm going to eventually go ahead and hit Vegas again, and it's going to be major when I do that. I'm telling you, major. Like, next time you see me in Vegas again, it'll be the most major thing for this channel. And that's kind of like the biggest thing that's going to happen. This may happen in 3 years from now, because I don't want to do this or what they call janky or like or half ass. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to like really put my all into this when I like make it out there. Because after that, I mean, we're going to be traveling the country. Like, this is going to happen, or this is not going to be a channel here. I mean, that's how I look at it. Like, this is going to happen. I don't care what they say about my dental work and what's needed to be done. Like, and all of that's physical stuff that could easily be shifted. You'll see. But I'm not for that right now. I'm not going to allow these conscious people to run me out of this by coming on here looking good with jewelry and this and that and clean cut. But in reality, you've made no money. You are negative. And I be sitting here watching this stuff. That's what I do in my job. So it's like, you can laugh at me all you want, but I'm not negative though. I always will make sure of it. This is why I'm telling myself and been told by my advisors, do not pass go. Do not collect $200 because I refuse to be negative, man. Refuse to be negative, man. Like, that's one thing, you're not gonna catch me negative. Like, driving around in cars, crossing over to different states and stuff like that with your driver's license. You're costing the governor money. You keep taxing him because you're a corporation, right? You don't realize it. And then you go to another state, now you taxing that governor. And they get tired of you. So then now they start playing around with you, creating scenarios. And so then they pimp you because they like, man, this motherfucker owe me some money. Like, so they send you a little female or male. You might be married. They catch you cheating and shit. They get you caught up into a scandal so they can get money out of you and extort you and then get you caught. Oh yeah, people do this. This is what's happening when you got an ID and you don't want to control your life. I'm trying to explain it to you. Do you get caught up? Do you wonder, you crying and wondering why did this happen to me? And yada, 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 yada. It's because of the fact that you think that it's just random. It's like God is punishing me. Then they got you going to church. And just got you all caught up. The pastor working with them too. Got you all caught up into this whole scenario that was been created because of some financial problem. Seriously. That you could have easily graduated from had you had to have some knowledge, but they got you doing all of this and that and caught up or whatever. And it doesn't matter your scenario. Like I said, I'm a sovereign and I'm going through it. But if you got an ID, you're not exempt. Everybody's number is going to eventually come up one day. And they're going to be held accountable for their full Social Security account. That's what I'm speaking of. and I'm going to shut down after this. And when it ever gets to a point where it's negative, you're going to be told not to pass go and not collect $200 by force. They're going to be messed with. You're going to end up finding yourself in a life sentence type of marriage. You're going to find yourself in jail, or for some people. Some people, you're going to find yourself in a dead end job. You're like, I don't believe this, Ram Hotel. I don't think that the people can do stuff like that to you. There's a higher God. You sound so weak and like a victim. Like, and I don't think, I'm serious. Somebody's thinking this. And I just can't believe this. That's why I don't listen to you anymore, because you like have been victimized. You come up here looking like this and looking like that, but you don't know what I'm trying to explain to you. I have no ties to any state or government, with the exception of the Moorish Empire, or what you call Morocco commonly. I have no ties to anything of that nature based upon my paperwork. I've been that way for years. I have gold and stuff like that tied into my name and stocks and things of that nature that I could easily pull up and show you paperwork and prove, but I'm not even trying to do that because it's nothing to prove to anybody. I'm explaining to you why they do this stuff to me. So yeah, I'm extorted. Yeah, I'm like put into scenarios that you guys won't understand, because these are rituals. Like if you was in my scenario, they probably put you through this stuff. You decide to go to work every day, so you have a boss they do rituals on you with. They use your boss to do this stuff. They can't use the boss on me, so they use the system. So they gotta have something to control you. Got to. They're like, nobody's really literally around, so let's use the system. Smart way. So you have to outthink that, outsmart that, come up with more commodities, eventually get to the point where they don't see you. That's the eventual goal, is where you get to a point where you're not viewed by anyone, your wealth or you, by anyone. You move into what's called a Z folders. You notice that in the term tax, it only deals with X. They can't go past that letter. With tax, they use the IRS on people a lot. That's why I'm bringing that up. There's a way through all of this, but you have to see it. They're not going to take, when you get into this level I'm speaking of, they're not going to send you a letter and tell you your bank account's negative. They're just going to come and try to move you out the way physically. They may try to kill you. Stuff like that. I've been through that several times. This is not fake. This is real. Stuff that you'll have to experience if you decide to fully take on, even if just half of it. Look at the stuff that half these teachers went through, and they still tied into the matrix. They still got paperwork. I got a corporation set up. You know how powerful this is? Through a card that I was able to create through my channel. I have a corporation set up. I don't have to go to the Secretary of State and go file paperwork, X, Y, Z. I incorporated myself through the system myself. I could go and create cards myself if I wanted to. I have the knowledge to know how to do it. I'm not saying I'm going to do it anytime soon. Maybe one day I could go and print off bank cards myself and create a banking system myself, my own currency if I wanted to. I'm smart enough to do that. So it's not that I'm ignorant, but I just know. See, I'm vising like, honestly, like over $1 billion view right now. I know it sounds crazy because you're looking at the numbers, but those triple numbers, when it doesn't hit 1K, just we use that. We got that set up with the property. That just goes on to, like, don't even, why worry about it? Like, it just goes onto our property. We have a cushion to where it doesn't cost the community money. And that's one thing I do want to point out. Anymore after this point, just goes on our land or whatever. So it just creates credit or debt if it's not monetized on. But we were able to flip a lot of it the other day and got some front row tickets to to the World Series, excuse me. Me and they like, what do you mean? I can monitor and view the World Series through my device wherever I'm at and give it credit, exchange credit without having to cost it money. See, some people, they go watch. This is why they make you pay. Like, well, why do you have to pay for stuff to go watch the World Series? Why? On a metaphysical level, I'm serious. Nobody's ever taught you this stuff. It's because energy is exchanged. It's like if the tickets are $100, that's how much energy you costing about looking at those guys. That's going to take me to what I'm going to talk about in Project Looking Glass, so I'll stop in the future. But just from looking at something costs both parties, the looker or the onlooker, as well as the one that's being viewed. So we'll talk about more, man. When they tell you do not pass go, do not collect $200, again, this is a metaphysical problem that you can get out of if you are highly conscious of how to move through this matrix.